iFixit's sent me some goodies. They sent me this soldering toolkit, as well as this fix mat, which seems pretty cool, and the ProTech on the go toolkit. So to be clear, I did not pay for this. However, they also didn't ask for a review. They just said, can we send you some bits? I said, yes, that's fine. And then when I was live streaming, I said, would you guys like me to unbox this and just give it a little bit of a spin? So here we are. A unfiltered, personal unboxing thing, and I guess we can call it an opinion on how I get on with this soldering iron. Now, I'm pretty happy with the soldering iron that I've currently got. However, I am in the space to look for a new one. This handle specifically is from my Hakko FX951. And being 100% truthful and honest, the iron has done me very, very well. I don't have any qualms about the use case of it. And actually, when I purchased it back in 2023, this station and the handle alone with one basic soldering tip cost me £350. And I'm on a venture to look for something new because of the fact there's so many different irons out there now for a much more reasonable price point. And it also makes sense for me to be able to recommend something that doesn't break the bank, especially if you're looking to get into soldering. So are we going to achieve that with this iFixit FixHub? Probably not, because this retails currently this exact kit for £290. In that case, are they comparable? Not really. So why are you talking about the Hakko FX951, Joey? Well, it's just what I currently have. I've had 3 soldering irons. One of them was a very basic Amazon one, cost me around about £20 or so. Then I was gifted a TS100 soldering iron. Then I moved on to the Hakko FX951. And occasionally I do use a Metcal, which was gifted to me from an old place of work. I think the whole idea of this kit specifically is to be able to solder on the go, right? And I don't know if there's many people, obviously, clearly I have no idea because I don't try and market things like this, but I can just speak from experience whilst I look for something to open this. And I can say that when I'm soldering, I like to be sat down at my desk with a fume extractor, comfortable, ready to go. I don't really want to be on the move, you know, at the kitchen table having to whack out this box and all those other bits. But for an enthusiast who's looking to just maybe solder a few wires together, I can see why this product would be a thing. However, just not at the price that it is, if that makes sense. Let's go ahead and open it then. I have no idea, again, what I'm expecting. I don't know. I don't even know what this video is, if I'm being honest. Okay, packaging on point, as always, from iFixit. Go ahead and just spin this open, shall we? Okay, here we go. Oh, update your firmware is the first thing that you're greeted with. I don't know if this is something that everybody has to do. I'm not too sure. It says that you're going to need access to the hub, obviously, USB-A to USB-C, the included, okay, so there's an included cable as well. And it says where to go to just download the firmware. I can't comment if that is something that everybody will need to do when / if they decide to purchase one of these, or, you know, I'm hoping that maybe, you know, later revisions of this will just have the firmware on it already. There's a little screwdriver in here as well. They love chucking these little screwdrivers in, don't they? This is the, like a more plastic one, this one, nonetheless. A nice touch. Is there something in it? Oh, they've got screw bits in here now. Why is there wait, why is there screws in here? Am I missing something? Is this to have to do something to this? I don't know. But then back in there, it's kind of cool. Let's go ahead and open her up again. Oh, I like it. I like it. FixHub. iFixit always coming through with, like, you know, the premium feeling of stuff. The stuff doesn't feel cheap. I'm just going to confirm what some of this is. We've got a silicon work mat, which seems to be pretty decent. Again, good quality. Silicon. Shock. If you can't tell already, this is definitely not going to be one of those in-depth reviews where I talk about things that actually matter. It's just going to be from a Joey opinion and perspective. So expect this to be all over the place. Oh, okay, so we got some solder wick. I'm excited to kind of give this a test, to be honest, because I wonder if it has flux in. We've got our little brass. Again, like the products that they make, that is nice. A nice quality. And we got our brass ball there for the soldering iron, which is really, really cool. Again, just on the go situation. I can see why this would be so good on the go. Look at it. You literally just roll it up and you go and just solder. I mean, you could put this in a little van and do tiny little soldering jobs that you need. I don't really, you know, I operate with hot air 90% of the time for the jobs that I do. But this is very handy for, like, how small and compact it is. I can just sling this around. It's like my Hakko is almost as big as this, you know, and you've got the actual soldering station in here amongst a plethora of other tools for your use case. A nice, very good quality USB-C cable. I'm assuming it's going to have to be because of the power it needs to deliver to the actual iron itself. Oh wait, it's USB-C to C. Okay, so we do have an A to C in here, right? I am so excited for this part. Fun fact, I actually had laser eye surgery, so I haven't worn glasses in a very long time. These are cool, man. Yeah, these are cool. I don't know how, like, over long use, if they're going to hurt or not, but these feel nice. Again, good quality. Do they need to be fantastic quality? Absolutely not. But yeah, all right. They're not blurry or anything like that. They're relatively clear. So I'm assuming this like blue end here, does that screw into the solder? I'm excited to have a look. I think I'll go over all the additional little accessories that we have. Oh, that's the actual soldering iron, which I'll keep out, I think. But all of these little things I'll go over after the fact, when I've got the soldering iron out, and I can potentially look at using some of them for some testing purposes. But you also have things that I don't really need to go over. You've got your tweezers, your spudger. We've got like a wire holder here as well, which is going to be useful. Other basic tools, you've got some wire cutters that come with it, as well as some flush cutters as well. Again, just good quality, you know. iFixit never seem to skimp on the quality of things, that's for sure. And you also might be thinking, Joey, why are you doing this video if it's not sponsored or they haven't asked you to do it? Regardless of this piece of kit, iFixit is one of the world leaders in the right to repair. So I believe in their mission, and I love what they do and their ethos as a company. So I'm not getting paid a penny to do this, nor will there be an affiliate link to this. Actually, if they sold it on AliExpress or Amazon, I'd most likely include one. But if I'm honest with you, I can't be bothered to contact iFixit and say, can you set me up with an affiliate program? So if this kit does interest you, I'll leave a link down below, but there'll be nothing that affiliates it with me at all. Wow, okay, that feels quite heavy, which is obviously good. You want heavy stuff. Heavy usually means good quality. That feels like really, really good quality. To confirm, on the website, it does state that it is 100 watts and smart soldering iron combo that offers 8 hours of continuous benchtop level soldering without access to wall power. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I didn't realize this had an internal battery and that you can just simply take this hub and use this hub. I didn't know that. I thought this was like a soldering station. I know that it's on the go and everything, but I thought you had to plug it in to AC or something. But I think it's just, yeah, it's got a battery in, right? So it says input USB-C 5 volts, 3 amps. So hopefully you can see the actual battery in this is a 5200 milliamp hour battery, and the front USB is 100 watt max combined, FYI. First looks, that's the front interface. Look at that. You got this knob here. It's kind of it's got like a nice feel to it. The 2 USB-Cs that you have here, I don't know why you'd have 2. It's 1 in, 1 out. Doesn't look that way. I'm going to peel this off. That wasn't as elegant as I wanted it to be. And then you've got a button. I don't know what this button does. I'm going to try and turn it on. Maybe it's dead. Oh, it does say input on the rear, where we've got this smiley face. Or I wouldn't say smiley, I would just say like it's a meh face. This is where we can charge the device. And it comes with a nice little stand as well. So that is kind of cool, hey? That's how much airtime you get with this stand, you know. So I'll take my Paul Daniels ammeter that we have up here, which is via USB-C, C to C, I'll have you know. And this is capable of, my charging brick specifically that goes into this is 100 watts. But I don't know how many watts, obviously, the battery takes. I think maybe like around 50 or so. So, I mean, we can see. Let's see what happens. So we get the 4 volts are just flickering at the moment. I have a Ugreen 100 watt power brick, USB-C, which should be capable of charging this station, I hope. Yeah, even the 20 volts at 2.25 amps should be no problem at all. You know, like 45 watts or whatever. Or maybe I need to update the firmware before I do anything else? Is that what it's saying? Maybe I should read some instructions. Oh, it does say the included USB-C to USB-C cable won't work for this first firmware update, but it will after this. So maybe that's the same for charging. That's interesting, hey? So I need to plug it into the computer, USB-C to USB-A. So I'm going to assume we plug it in to the input of the hub. There we go. I get my beep beep. Hopefully you heard that. Well, that was pretty easy, to be honest. I just clicked on update available. I selected the COM port that the USB-C device was connected to. And now I do get like a funky little charging symbol on the FixHub hub. So that's completely on me. I should have updated the firmware first, I guess. Your device is now on version 1.4.2. So out of interest then, will it now charge with the ammeter? Oh my gosh, it's going to, look, straight up to 20 volts. Wow. iFixit logo, pretty cool. There we go. I mean, that is a very, very slow, if not charging situation at all. That's probably just enough amps there to actually power on the device. So I'm going to go ahead then and assume that it is fully charged. Let's go ahead and try and turn it on. I think by the clicky wheel. Clicky wheel does not work. Let's try the blue button. There it is. iFixit. Did it say shutting down? Maybe the soldering iron needs to be plugged in. Oh, it also does say, don't forget to update your soldering iron as well. This ensures there is no firmware mismatch between devices. Okay, so let me do the same with the iron. Oh, look at that. You get the light show. Cool. Now, I don't know why. I mean, I just plugged it in and I've gone onto the website. I selected the soldering iron and it is literally just climbing up in temperature. Very slowly, I might add. I mean, you can see how slow this is climbing, but you can't like turn it off. So you're telling me that the soldering iron is just on when you plug it into the PC? It'd be good if that wasn't the case and that temperature was set to like, you know, 0 or 20 or whatever. Because now what I'm looking for is the stand. Where's the stand? Oh, I guess this lid bit here is the stand, isn't it? That's like a magnet. I just stick it in there like that. Because does that stand up? I don't think it does. I don't even know if I could put that on. Yeah, it's definitely getting warm. It's taking ages to heat up. That'll be because of the PC though. So I'm confused. There's not a stand. So do you just leave this lid on? I mean, what are we at now? We're at 100 degrees Celsius now, you see. Oh yeah, it's hot. Right, let's just update the firmware, shall we? All right, let's just take it out. Okay, so we've got these two things, right? Let's actually plug it into the hub now, shall we? Make sure we're actually going to be working. That goes there, and then okay, so you can slide that down and turn it, so it's like a nice snug fit. That's pretty cool. I like that. Oh, is that the on and off button? Was that an on and off button there? I think so. That would make sense, right? Because that's blue and that's orange. I see. So if I had it plugged in, maybe perhaps I could have just had it on blue and it wouldn't have heated up. That makes sense. In fact, let me test that. So here's the actual process you can see. So you plug it in, you hit it, connect it, bosh. Ah, there we go. Yeah. So it's 57. And then if I flick the switch, I'm going to flick the switch now. Does it go up? It does. Look at that. Okay, so that's how you turn the iron on and off. Okay, cool. Oh, it sits like that. Look. It sits like that. So you have this bit and you can... Oh, I see. Oh, I kind of like that now. I was judging it for saying that it doesn't come with a stand, but I kind of like that. The magnet could maybe be a little bit stronger, or just like circular, I guess, because at the moment it's like triangle, so you need to make sure that you line it up. So when you're going to go ahead and put it back, you do need to fiddle it a little bit. It does feel a little bit flimsy in that regard. Maybe I haven't got it on correctly. Yeah, that's a bit better, but still a little bit flimsy there, as you can see. But I like the design. I like that. That is kind of cool. You can just hook it either that side or you can put it on this side. So let's turn this bad boy on then. Holding down the blue button, iFixit, the nice little logo there. Shutting down. Have I done something else? Have I done something wrong? Maybe this needs to be on. Okay, I've now switched the iron on. If this doesn't work, I'm going to have to go to the manual. Yeah, it just says shutting down. Let me take it out and try. Right there. iFixit. Shutting down. So it just like immediately shuts down. I must be doing something wrong. Okay, I'll put it in charge again. Can I use it whilst it's in charge? Let me put it in charge. So what are we drawing now? We're still around about that 80 milliamps. We are. So I've got it plugged in. I wonder if maybe the battery might be ridiculously dead, which is why it's at 80. It might just need a little bit of a kickstart. But let me try and turn it on now with it plugged in and see what happens. Okay, iFixit. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it's now connected. Oh, battery error. Tool shut down. It says battery 0. Thing is, it's not charging. And like I said, oh, sorry, it's not a Ugreen power delivery brick. It's an Anker 100 watt. And it's just sat at 17 milliamps. Why is it sat at 17 milliamps? Why is it not doing something? Language, English. Okay, cool. Yeah. So you can change all the settings here. Power off timer, 10 minutes. Timer enable. Max charge, 100%. Firmware 1.4.2. Error log, back. I do like the functionality of this. I like the little screen as well. But I can't do anything right now, unfortunately. What happens if I just press the blue button once? Nothing. And we're just sat at 17 milliamps. This is strange. So you see how up here it's jumping around? It's all around the place, right? Oh, okay, now we're getting a little bit of a... I mean, it doesn't look like a good charge. It's a very erratic charge, like just up and down, you know, big spikes. Maybe I just need to leave it for a hot minute or two. So we can see that the battery symbol says that it's charging. And now it's just dropped again. See that? Oh, no, it's just all over the place. Okay, I'm going to leave it for 10-15 minutes or so, come back to it. And it might be that if it's just been sat around for a while, it's just had a firmware update as well. So it's just not liking that. But I'll leave it alone and I'll come back to it in a minute. Well, I thought I'd leave it for a few minutes, but it's actually been a whole day. If I go the plugger in now, you should see, yes, we're drawing a stable 270 milliamps, but it's fully charged, so it's just turned on. Lovely jubbly. So that means now, technically, theoretically, I can just unplug it and start using it. Is she on? She is indeed. So if I just zoom in here, what can we, oh, wait a minute, so we can't. So is it on? Let me hold it. That's going to shut it down. Okay, so we can see 40 degrees currently is what the iron is set to. We've got the little blue LED. I'm going to switch it on. So the iron's on. And let's just see what happens here. Wow, that's going up quite quickly. So it's at 200. So I think that's what I've got it set to. I do. What's the max this can go up to? Because I have no idea. 420. Okay, do I need to click in or will it just... No, we'll just go up. Okay, and you've got like a bar over here to show maybe like the boosting to get up to a good temp. There we go. We're at 413, 414, 15. And now it's at 420. So technically this should be ready to go. Look at that. I can definitely smell it. And what's nice is I can just leave it in this holder and not have to worry about it. So unit Celsius, 420, max temp, idle temp, 100. You can turn that down. So I could put idle temp, for example, to 50 degrees Celsius. Idle timer, here we go, 30 seconds. So I'm going to set that down. What's the lowest we can go to? 1 second, all the way down to 1 second. That's interesting. Let's go 10 seconds. So again, yep, idle enable. Sleep timer, 60. So what's the difference between sleep and idle? So let's go 30 seconds for that. Sleep enabled, temp correction, power off, timer 10 minutes, timer enabled, max charge 100%. You can change that as well for some reason. Error log. Cool. Okay. That's and then blue to go back, I'm assuming. Yeah, perfect. Right, let's give it 10 seconds then. It's at 4:23 at the moment. Here it goes. Look. And it's flashing blue on the actual handle itself to indicate, I'm assuming, that it is actually cooling down. And remember, I've got sleep to 30 seconds. So I wonder if this is going to go all the way down to 50 and then sleep, or is this counting the sleep timer now? Oh, I think I accidentally maybe moved this and it went back up. Yeah, there we go. So if you move this, it's got like a sensor or something in. So as soon as you start moving this, that's when it perks up again. Okay, so 420. What we're actually going to operate at is 400 degrees Celsius. So I'm just going to set it at 400 degrees Celsius just there. And I'll set my Hakko to 400 as well. And we'll just give it a little bit of a spin. Now I've just got two boards here as well. One thing I wanted to say is that I kind of like how the iron fits in my hands with the iFixit one. And on the contrary, going back to this, me saying that it should be circular, I understand why they've done it like this, because of the feeling that you have with your 3 fingers, right? Because it all rests really, really nice here. The tip itself in the length is very, very similar to the Hakko that I have. So that doesn't feel very alien to me. I would say though, it doesn't make a huge difference in terms of the handling between having the 3 notches here and this just being circular. Maybe that will change over time. And if I was to use this more, maybe I would have much more of a preference, or maybe I just learn to use it. The double wielding, you know what I mean? But yeah, comfort wise, it feels good. I've just had to rotate the tip a little bit because when it came, it was like the other way. So I just had to quickly turn it. And the iron is currently set to 47 degrees Celsius. So I can just spin this. I haven't actually checked if I can take it out. Like, how does that? Oh, look at it, man. So it's a bevel 1.5 tip. It's an IF 145 to 837. Is that Fahrenheit temperature? 17 volts, 100 watts, it says. So I'm now wondering, actually, I think this is like a proprietary tip, isn't it? And it spins kind of freely in there. It does fit in nicely, and it does, yeah, it feels good. It feels good when it's in there, and you can see it stops flashing. So that's a bonus. Let's just have a quick look here then. So we've got the actual tips themselves, how much they set in your back. So setting you back £19, and they've currently got, what, 7 available to actually buy. They have got a nice blend of a few knife tips, different thicknesses, as we can see. A bevel tip, a cone tip. Nobody uses this, by the way. I don't know why these tips are still a thing. If you do use this type of soldering iron tip, please let me know in the comments. But everyone I speak to always just has like horrendous things to say about it. And I think it's more so just to do with heat transfer to the end of the tip. I can't really think of a use case for this. And it's the same with this. What's this, a point tip? Isn't that the same? Yeah, it's pretty much exactly the same, just a conical, right? Just a lot smaller. So at the moment, they don't have a massive array of tips to use. And yeah, I think they are proprietary. It even says down here that FixHub soldering iron tips are not interchangeable with other soldering irons due to power compatibility and safety considerations, which I think is fair enough. But you're obviously, with that, you're going to limit yourself. Just a quick mention, the tip that I like to use on my Hakko is this bad boy right here. So it's like a bevel tip, but it's got an indentation at the end which like holds the solder. So if I take some solder here, you'll see, look, watch this. It just kind of sits in the roof. Look. Just like that. And it kind of stores it in there. It's quite nice. I think I had a hair on it, which is why it was bubbling then. So like I said, this is not going to be any magic show. I've got 2 very similar boards here. In fact, identical in terms of model number and everything. And they have just been sat in a huge pile of mine for a very long time. So they are exactly the same temperature. It's quite cold today, actually. I'll even give you specifics. So this is my thermal camera. And I'm literally going to use this massive bit of ground down here, which is going to be an interesting one. That's currently measuring 18 degrees Celsius. If I take the other board that I've got, just to show you, this is probably going to show hopefully around that as well. Yeah, 17.7, we've got slight room there. 17.8, 17.9 is where we're currently at. So pretty much identical in terms of the temperature of these boards. So I'm quickly just going to solder on here. Like I said, extremely rough and ready. Would actually be really cool to measure it with my thermal camera as well. So right here, we've got 40 degrees. I'll tell you when it reaches max. So I'm going to switch the iron on. Right, let's take the iFixit one out of idle. Here we go. So they're both set at 400. That is, I mean, I said about the magnet being too strong, right? But I mean, I was giving that a nice pull and it wasn't coming out then. So that could be a little bit frustrating, but let's pull it out and see what happens. Here we go. Okay, 150. I actually think my thermal camera maxes out about 150, 155 or something, but that went up to temperature very quick. Let's do the same with the Hakko. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I don't think it's a really like a good test. I mean, it shows us hotter, but again, I think that's down to the actual thermal camera capping out or something. Doesn't really show us much, does it? Over to the board, I'm just going to use this massive ground plane here. I'll start off with the Hakko, let it get up to temperature. No flux is going to be used because I do have flux in my solder wire. It's a flux core. We'll just keep it exactly the same. So let's see what happens with the Hakko. So we're at 400 degrees Celsius now with the Hakko, and I'm just going to solder on this massive, massive copper ground plane here. Arguably the biggest part on the PS5. So here we go. And wow, look at that. It's cool, isn't it? I do really like the Hakko. Look at that. Solder is spreading, sticking to it instantly, almost. Look at that. Not so much there, but I was quite quick to take it off. But look how nice that spreads. Considering, again, let's remember how big this is, right? And if I hold it down, yeah, it keeps it, doesn't it? It does really well. Does a really good job. That's why I like the Hakko. Almost identical tip on the iFixit, so let's try that. Exactly the same area, just here. Maybe off by a millimeter or two. Let's clean the tip on this, because I've not actually cleaned it yet. And then just dump it in the brass. Here we go. Let's do it. I'm excited. Okay. It's getting there, isn't it? There we go. It's getting there. It definitely feels a lot more sticky. You see this? How it's like freezing? See that? Interesting. Now, what I will mention whilst we're here, right? This is still around about the 400, and it doesn't seem to be like throttling the meter or anything. I mean, it's doing a job. I can confirm it's doing a job, but the Hakko definitely moved it around a lot better. Now, the argument that's better. That's done a lot better there. Okay, let me move. But that might be because the copper is now a little bit hotter. So let me go a little bit further away, like here. You could argue that it might be a little bit oxidized, which is entirely possible. But I mean, it's not doing bad. It's not doing bad. A little bit sticky there again. When I start moving it around, you see that? And up here. Yeah. There we go. It does do it eventually. And then if I just use the Hakko next to it, for example, just here. There we go. Can you see how much quicker that melts it in this area? You see what I'm saying? And how much quicker it like sticks to the copper. Look, there. And you can see it doing it real time. Now you can argue about the oxidization and stuff of the board, but both of the boards have been sat in the exact same area. Yeah, okay. I definitely feel like the Hakko on that basic test outperforms it. Now, interestingly, I've got an array of BGA pads here with solder on already. This looks like unleaded solder to me, and I should have the exact same here, which I do, as you can see, unleaded solder. So what I'm going to do is, these are, again, separate boards. I'm going to go ahead and wick both of these areas. But first off, applying some flux and some leaded solder to make our jobs easier, because that is, for me, a real case scenario, a real world scenario, you know? That's what I would be doing on the job, is I'd be applying leaded to then make my life easier. Fume extractor on for this, of course. Starting with the Hakko. Again, I'm not going to warm these boards up at all, so we can see a like-for-like comparison. So I'll start with the Hakko here. This job is already difficult because I'm not heating up the board. Solder loves heat, so it's going to be a challenge for both of them, which is why I'm doing it. So I'm just going to apply some flux here. And again, this is going to be the Hakko first, okay? How does this feel? Hakko's up to temp. It's coming with our bit of leaded. Feels sticky, of course, because the board is not going to be warm. This is also how you ruin pads. This is not how I'd like recommend doing things. But this is how you ruin pads. I'm just doing it to see like stickiness and stuff, you know? And the Hakko's kind of struggling here. Look, it's leaving bits of solder behind. But, you know, what I'm actually asking of it is very, very tough. And it'll be the exact same for the iFixit iron as well. But again, a good test nonetheless. But you can see that it's just leaving stuff behind. Even though it's unleaded, because the board itself is cold, it's tough. It's really, really tough. There we go. Look, we've got this big clump now. But it should give you a little bit of an idea as to how the solder behaves with the iron. So let me just remove that big solder blob there. Pretty much as soon as possible, I'll come in with the wick. So here we go with the wick. How does this do on a cold board? Look at this. Okay, so now that we've got that leaded on the pads, it does a great job. And again, this is a Hakko. It does a great job of wicking it up, doesn't it? With the leaded. Not perfect, again, because, you know, it needs heat. The board does need heat to do an effective job. But again, kind of contradicting myself here by saying it's a real world scenario when I'm not applying the heat side of things. There we go. Okay, that's what the Hakko has done. And look at, if we look at like the rip pads and everything, there doesn't seem to be any rip pads. I'm pretty sure on the other board there are a few rip pads already, so I need to take that into consideration. But and just cleaning the flux is nice and easy as always because it's Kingbo. But you can see down here I've taken a little bit of the solder mask off. Can you see that? A little bit of the solder mask has come off down here because again, this is not how the job should be done. It's just for testing purposes. But yeah, small bits of solder left on some of these pads, as we can see. Just around this area, I can see quite a bit of solder left on the pads. Down here especially as well, down on the right. Probably going to be a mixture of ability plus the soldering iron itself, but nonetheless, hopefully a good place to start in terms of testing. Now if I grab our other board, and we're going to use the iFixit hub now. Is it going to do a job? Let's see. Apply some flux. I've taken out the holder. Here we go. It says it's up to temp. Let's apply that leaded. Get a nice big bit on there. There we go. So it's a lot, I feel like a lot earlier it's leaving that solder behind. Now, I can't really speak, you see where the pads are ripping here, I can't really speak and say that that's going to be because of this soldering iron, and the reason being is because there was a rip pad or two before. But as you can see, right, can you see how it's just leaving the same solder, by the way, on the same area of the board with what should be roughly the same temperatures? And can you see how it's, you know, it might be ripping the pads, but it's not doing the same job. The Hako wasn't moving the solder as very well either. But again, I mean, if you look at the differences here, I'm now just trying to scrape it and hold it a little bit longer so it tracks it. If I slow down on my iron, which is, you know, not how I was doing with the Hako itself, I then can slowly take some of this, but there's big clumps here that it's just kind of leaving behind. So let's just, again, I'm trying to melt this and move it, but it's not doing the best job here. There we go. Okay, let's try like a little bit of a circular motion. There we go. Try it circular. Come with me. Probably best to mention at this part as well, I believe the iFixit hub, which is what I'm using now, is 100 watt, whereas my Hako is actually only 75 watt. But the tip quality, etc., and a bunch of other things will make all of the difference. Okay. So I'll leave it there because, as you can see, I'm trying to move it around. It's not having it. Let's try and wick some of this away. And again, my use case might not be of somebody else's, which is, you know, tinning a few wires here and there is like a bit of a botch job. You could definitely argue as well that the tip itself is not as big as what the one on the Hako is. That's for sure. But this is obviously the only one that I have. I don't have one either that's going to be the same size roughly as the Hako, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm trying to... So on my wick now... So it melts the solder, but the wick is really, really struggling here. And just trying to move that around and wick it, but it is quite tough, isn't it? It is quite tough. And then if I'm just going to show you an example now. If I come in with my Hako for comparison. So same bit of wick, I've just trimmed it. And my Hako. How big are the differences in the tip? Just so we can take that into consideration. I mean, the Hako one is bigger, isn't it? It is slightly bigger. It is. Can't deny that. So now I'll come in with the wick and the Hako. This is the Hako. Okay. See what happens. It's up to temp now. Struggling initially to get the solder. I'm just trying to wick all of this solder away. But you can see it does a much better job here of just grouping that solder up and putting it on the wick. So again, I'll just move my wick up. I won't bother cutting it. Look, can you see how much of a difference that is compared to the other one? And if I move up again, this is not how you should do this job, please. This is me just showing examples. I'll move up. It's a lot easier to maneuver. It feels a lot smoother on the Hako. And we didn't even get round to, you know, all of the areas on this board with the iFixit hub. So I think it is clear that the iFixit hub is more so for that, you know, the tin and wire sort of job. I don't think it's something that could do very well with this particular use case scenario. This is also at 400 degrees, by the way, and not 420, which is the max that it can do. Okay, but that obviously looks very, very messy and horrible now. This is quite, I'd say, an advanced job where we're trying to do BGA work, so it's not easy. If I was tinning two wires together, the iFixit hub would have no issues whatsoever, by the way. This is, again, just from my use case, repairing consoles, working on quite big pads, I would say. Ground planes a lot of the time, but this is probably what I use my iron for most in day-to-day life. I'm going to put the temperature up on the iFixit hub to 420. So this is now max, right? And I'm going to come in with some flux. I'm just going to try and tin this area. So it's at 420 now. Let's see how this does. I'm just going to try and tin this area. Put a big loop on there. So it doesn't, yeah, it doesn't, I mean, it does an okay job tinning. It means that I do have to go over it a few times, doesn't it? And again, I will mention the board is going to be not hot, you know, it's going to be a room temperature. Only this area specifically is going to be increasing in the heat. I do have to go over some of the pads a few times, as you can see, to make sure they actually have solder on. There's been a few that have missed up here, look. If I do roughly around about half, then we can see how the Hakko fares as well. So let's put the Hakko on 400 and see how it does. That's up to temp. And if I just go over, I'd say what, roughly around about the same. 20 degrees less. Let me just put it up for over here and see if that makes a difference. So 420 on the Hakko now as well, on the remainder of these pads. Yeah, you can definitely see like it does a much better job at the same temperature as what the iFixit one does, doesn't it? I'll quickly test here as well. Again, this is on the 420. I'll start with the Hakko this time. There we go, you can see. And I can just spread that around nicely. And then coming in with the iFixit at 420, which is its max temperature. And I'll just do it just a little bit below. And in fairness, the Hakko would have heated up the ground plane a little bit more, so it should be okay. But you can see it doesn't. It's up there. It's definitely up there. It does a good enough job, just not as quick as what the Hakko does. So it just takes a little bit longer for that solder to set on the copper, right? Down here. Can you see? But eventually it does come through. So yeah, I mean, it just takes a little bit longer. That's all. So in terms of actual soldering ability, straight off the bat, I mean, this isn't, you know, a plethora of loads of different tests. But I would definitely say it holds out well. And for, if you're doing like minor repairs, replacing a few caps here and there, then I don't think necessarily you're going to struggle. Especially if you're using this to like travel around in tin wires and stuff and do minor repairs like that. The benefit of this is the travel, right? If I just try and take maybe this little cap off, for example. I have to go back and forth a few times. Again, the ground plane is going to be quite big here for this specific cap. There we go. It does come off. See that? Let me try a little bit bigger. I'm not using any flux here, by the way. Only the only flux that's here is in the solder. Let's go back and forth a little bit. There we go. And that comes off as well. So, I mean, yeah, it does a job. It does a good job. I'm fairly new to, like, testing out irons and stuff. And all I've got to compare against is my Hakko. Same size cap just here. Same temperature. 420. If I put that either side, bit of solder. Let's work it back and forth. Yeah. So it's probably about, I'd say the same time as what the other one was, to be honest. So, I mean, for stuff like this, like, are you really going to notice a difference? Probably not. And what's the benefit of using the iFixit one? The convenience of being able to just chuck it in your bag and move around. It's battery powered. Let's not forget that. Like, that is a huge, huge, huge thing to remember here. Battery powered and still putting out the power that it does. And consistently, may I add as well, it's really good. I mean, it's no question. If I was on the move, then this is definitely more so the one that I'd be taking with me purely because of the portability. I like the way it feels in my hand. It's perfect for that. It's very, very comfortable to use. It's not that heavy. It's not massively heavy. I think it's a little bit heavier than the Hakko, if I'm honest. But again, that is a credit to the quality that we have. And I don't think it's not going to make a massive difference. The wire kind of wears it down a little bit, just a tiny bit. But again, it's not going to, I mean, you could use it for hours and hours. I don't think it's going to give you RSI. And the safety features of it, you know, when you make sure you go and put it in the handle, it turns off after 10 seconds. You can set it to 1 second or whatever it was. That's perfect. And of course, importantly, the on and off switch. How much battery do we have left? That's a good question, isn't it? I've been recording this segment specifically for 27 minutes and we're at 78%. So again, not bad at all. And that has been on pretty much the whole time, FYI. It'll be good to see how long this lasts over time, of course. But overall, I'm pretty impressed, again, with the fact that you can just carry this around wherever you are in a little tool bag and do jobs on the go. This job here, where the SSD controller is on a PlayStation 5, is really tough on irons thermally. The tip that comes with it isn't the greatest, I have to be honest. If you had something maybe like more like a knife tip, that would be much more beneficial. But even like when you were, say, working on HDMI ports and you were just tinning and going over the pads, I don't think you'd have any issues whatsoever. It would take practice, and you'd maybe have to work a little bit slower for those temperatures to hit the board itself, but I still think brilliant. For the next part of this video, I thought it would be pretty beneficial to do some maybe standard, what I would like to call standard repairs on a Nintendo Switch, test some basic wicking, and to do that, I think it will be best to have a look at some of the other equipment that I have in the package. So for example, I'd like to use the wick. I'd also like to give the rosin core flux solder a go, as well as the flux. So here I have quite a common worked area, which is called M92T36. There's meant to be a chip here, but subsequently there's not. Again, same sort of rules apply. I'm not going to go, back and forth between the Hacko at this point. I'm just going to test the iFixit hub soldering iron to see how I get on with, for example, just tinning around this area with the stuff that they've provided in their own kit. So this is our flux. Look at this, no clean flux, made in the US of A, and it's 2 grams worth. I'm not going to apply any heat to the board. I'm just going to see what happens if I squeeze. Can I squeeze this? Like, what happens here? I am squeezing, but nothing's happening. Do I need to cut the end of it off or something? I think I do. I think I need to cut the end of it off. Okay, now I've cut the end. Is that going to come out? Maybe not. Do I need to take this whole bit off? Again, maybe that was user error. I think it was. Here we go. That looks better. Now if I squeeze. There we go. Wow, look at this. The colour of this, man. That's like a piney sort of colour, and can you see it's like this part was more yellow than what this part was. Wow, okay. I definitely don't recommend smelling flux, FYI, but I can't smell anything at all. All right, coming in with the actual soldering iron itself, and where's the solder that I have that's been provided from iFixit? And this is lead-free solder, FYI, and here are the elements. We've got tin, silver, and copper. Oh, I've just put it in the flux. Nice one, Joey. So this is unleaded. Oh, this is going to be interesting, really interesting. I don't work with unleaded personally, so maybe this will change my mind. I'm just going to see how it flows. This is, again, 420 degrees Celsius. This flux seems to be okay. So I've got a bridge here. This is good because I want to be able to test the flux with a bridge. So I've got a bridge up here. So if I come in with the flux that is provided, and you're not going to be using too much of this. 2 rounds isn't a lot. It's not going to last you the longest amount of time. But it seems really thick. I kind of like it, to be honest. And it's really good flux, man. That's really good flux. It cleared the bridge quite easily. You could say that, most fluxes would be able to do that anyway, but it's not burning completely and bubbling away. This is 420 degrees Celsius on the iron, so it's doing a great job of just keeping the solder flowing. A really, really good job. Look, this is really good. And the soldering iron is having no issues at all. Bearing in mind, this board has no heat in it. I'm operating at 420, so I am operating at max right now. Just going to see how long it takes to really, really burn out the flux by just keeping the iron on. Can you see? I'm not a flux connoisseur, but I would definitely use this flux, and I don't have any smell issue at all. It's like a no scent. It's really weird. I don't know how they've achieved that. Fair play. Now I've left it a couple of seconds. Let me see what it's like to actually clean the flux up. Yeah, okay, so it is sticky. It is sticky, and what I would do in this sense is literally just apply some heat to the board. I would do this with any flux. Kingbo's really good. You don't necessarily need to add any heat whatsoever, but if I just come in with a little bit of heat here, I want to see how nicely it cleans up when the board is hot. Does it stick to... It's quite a sticky flux. It is quite a sticky flux, but it's really good. I mean, it does the job. You would need to make sure that you cleaned it off the board. But yeah, that's really, really good. Look how clean that is. Super clean. Let me try and wick this away and then add some of the solder back. Let's try that. The solder that's on the board is unleaded because I've not messed around with this one. So this is the very wick that has been provided by iFixit. It says, again, no clean flux on it. I wonder if has it got flux in? Doesn't really say, does it? Just says solder wick, no clean flux. I don't know why it says no clean flux. Maybe that is insinuating that it does have flux inside. Now I might have to, it feels really thick. This braid feels really, really thick. You can see there's a lot of wiring going on there. I'll grab the soldering iron. I'm going to try and wick without flux, which is not something that you would usually do. I'm just going to see what the performance is like, especially on that big ground plane in the middle. Let's see what happens. No flux. Ooh. Wait, was that because of the wick? Or was that because of what was left on the... Ooh. Is that because of the wick? What I'll do is I'll trim it and I'll try it on the other side. The iron's clean as far as I'm aware because I dumped it in a bunch of brass. I'm going to trim the wick. Okay. And I'm just going to... I'll grab my hacker then. I'm just going to... So you can see the soldering iron tip is clean, right? Let me try it here. See what happens. Just on the opposite side. Is that coming from the wick? I believe so. Look, wow, what is that? What's that coming from the wick? And I don't think it's necessarily going to be... Yeah, it's not the flux that's been left over. That's the wick. So there is some sort of a flux in the wick, but it's leaving this mess on the board. That's not great. Coming with some IPA. Clean that off. How easy is it clean? With IPA itself, yeah, kind of normalish, I guess. And with heat, it would be even better, but we didn't actually have any flux on there at all. So let me add some flux now and see how it wicks. Quickly add some of my solder actually on the main one. This is my solder. Iron gets up to temp quite quick. It's really good. There we go. And look, it has no issues with that ground plane. It's really good. If you're working on Nintendo Switches specifically. Okay, let's come in with a bit of flux. Okay, so we've got some flux here. How does this fare? The tube is a little bit awkward to work with, to be honest with you. They do have like a dispensing pen as well, I think, that you can fill up. Let's see how this wicks up, shall we? Yes, very thick braid. I mean, it's done a good job taking the solder off. And it hasn't left behind a residue at this point. Let's try it here. I mean, yeah, it's done a job. Okay, all right. Maybe because it was like the start of the wick is why we had all of that residue just now. Again, it definitely it becomes sticky very quickly. Very, very quickly. These boards are much smaller than obviously bigger consoles, the PS5s, etc. So heat transfer is going to be better. Let's put some of their solder on with a bunch of their flux as well. I'm going to try it without flux first, just because why not? Just see what happens, how much of a mess we can create. How much of a mess can we create here? What is their flux like? I tell you what, wait a minute. Sorry, their solder, not their flux. I'm not talking about. There we go. Okay, that's better. That's more so what I was expecting. Maybe there was like a tiny bit of flux here, but I was super impressed then. Just go over here. This is without any flux. There we go. Okay. I'm going to go back over here. I don't know why this side is doing so well. You flip it over. I'm really confused. All right. Let me dump that solder off. And let's see if we can smooth this out with the flux and the solder that's been provided by iFixit. Let's see. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I'm not going to be able to sort that bridge out without the wick. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. Very impressed, to be honest. Look how easily that's gone. What? Why am I even using leaded solder? Why am I doing that? This is nice, man. This is nice. Let me give it a real test real quick, because I'm a little bit shocked with that, to be fair. This is the back of a port. Now, these are really, really, really hard areas to get to. Now, I would never usually tin this area. That is no need, because if you fail a USB-C port swap on a Nintendo Switch, they have 2 lines of pads, and usually the pads underneath are ruined as well, so there's no point in just going over here. If we have a look, I'm going to try and tilt it up and put it like that. Say I went in here and I just really messed up, okay? So I'm just going to mess up. So I'll put some solder on my iron, and I've gone in completely and utterly dry here. And you can see that it's just not happening, right? Just out of curiosity here, more so than anything else. I'm then just going to place the flux that it's come with. Either the flux is really good, or the solder is really good, or they're both just really good. Again, it's a little bit messy to work with this tube, but it is what it is. And then I'm just going to go for... Yeah, it's a little bit harder here, isn't it? To be fair, I've added so much. This is probably like a more of a user error situation, so you can't really blame the iron for this. I shouldn't have done this. I'm just trying to move it around. How easy is that to move around? It doesn't move around very easy. No, okay, maybe I should just stick to where M92 T36 was. I'm really tempted to just run the Hako here and see how this performs with the Hako. And the same flux of iFixit, but just with the iron swapped out. So let me come in with some more flux here. Come in with the Hako. 420, exactly the same. How does this behave with the solder? Well, I mean, it definitely moves it better. This is just me being a little bit more patient, but the iron's doing definitely more work here. Can you see how it's moving the solder around? So I know I said I wasn't going to compare against the Hako anymore, but for this test, I feel like that was a pretty good one to just see. Again, I very rarely do stuff like this. I like to use my hot air. I'm very impressed with the flux, by the way. I really like the flux. But yeah, I mean, look, that's with the solder that it's come with. That's not leaded solder, by the way. I know that I've just used the Hako there, but that's not leaded solder. And as for working around the M92 T36, I'm super impressed with how both the solder and the flux have behaved here. Really, really impressed. The wick I'm not too sure about. I'm still a little bit on edge with it, to be honest. Which again is a little bit strange. I've never seen wick leave this sort of residue. Let's see how it wicks up this now. And this is the unleaded, I believe, that came with the iFixit kit. Yeah, it struggles a little bit here. And that's where you would come in and just introduce heat. So for example, I'm failing with this now, but if I was ever in doubt, you're probably not going to have a hot air gun on the move, but I would just come in with heat and it would make the job 10 times easier. Because solder loves heat. But yeah, honestly, Flux actually gets a pass from me. I know it's not like in the best sort of form factor. It also comes with this like dispensing pen. I think that's just where you put Flux in, you know. But I'm actually really shocked at how well the Flux did. The wick is a bit, I'd give it definitely a meh. I don't like the residue that it leaves behind. I'm assuming it's some sort of flux, and it seems to be way too thick. I don't know, just a little bit awkward to actually solder with. I'm very impressed with this solder. Considering that it's got no lead in at all. How easy it was to actually work with, especially on something like a switch port down here, which is super tiny, and I was able to use my Hacko to then come in and just smooth that out. That speaks volumes about the actual solder itself. So who knows, it might actually steer me away from leaded solder, perhaps. Overall, I gotta say, I am impressed with the form factor as well as the portability that allows you to just take this around with you, chuck it in my bag, you know what I mean? It is very impressive. Plus, all of the stuff that it actually comes with. This wasn't aiming to be a comparison video, but I also wanted to show something that was side by side the iFixit iron to at least give you some perspective, right? But I could comfortably do work with this iFixit soldering station for sure. My personal use case, I much prefer to be stationed somewhere where I've got a big work desk and I've got my soldering station right next to me with my hot air gun, and where I'm not trying to save space. I don't think I need this, but if I had a smaller desk, it's definitely something that I would even personally consider. The price, $289, is pretty steep, but you can't deny the premium quality that you actually get with iFixit, which is again what I love. Everything here is built very well made and designed to last a long time. With a different array of tips, this thing could be a contender. To be clear, if somebody was just on the move all the time and wanted to tin some wires or work on smaller boards, this iron would be my recommendation. Straight up. But if you've got room for something a little bit bigger that yields more power, I think you're picking up a Hacko for around about the same price point second hand, at least. Maybe actually the Hacko is a little bit more expensive. Even though less wattage, you can see that the quality in the Hacko for the heat delivery, especially in the tips, is slightly better. Does not mean, however, this is a bad product in any way, shape or form. I like it. Seeing as I don't have a use case for it and I'm happy with the soldering iron that I've got, and you know, I'm looking at other alternatives anyway, I'm going to give this away. As much as I'd love to keep hold of it, I feel like that would be greedy, as I simply just don't need it. If you are living in the UK, I will run the giveaway specifically for the UK. Please join the Discord and I'll launch the giveaway after this video goes live. All you have to do is click to enter. I'll cover shipping and everything, and you could be in for a chance to win this specific iFixit soldering station, minus a little bit of the solder and flux. I'll leave a link down below if you want to buy this. Again, it's not affiliated or anything, and specifically it will be the one with the kit attached. Also, feel free to check out any of the affiliate links down below that are for my tools and equipment. Anything you buy from those links, I get a little bit of a kickback. If you enjoyed this and you want to see other comparisons that I do with soldering irons, even hot air guns, anything, please let me know down below in the comment section. Tell me what your opinion is on this iron as well. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.